Eric, are you ready?
Of course.
You're ready for this. I'm ready for this. I've been ready for this damn fight to happen since the chatter of it started. Everyone that I know that follows the UFC, that really, they haven't followed it as long as I have, where I did see the rise, the fall, and the true ascent of George St. Pierre's career. They don't understand how big this is. This is the return of a guy that was a UFC welterweight champion for 7 years. Do we see that anymore? Do we see guys be champions for that long in this current era of the UFC? We don't.
No.
That could be, to the detriment of the UFC. That could be to the benefit of the UFC. The competition is getting better. The sport is bigger and better than it was even 4 years ago. The game has changed so much in comparison to the game of 4 years ago. UFC 167, George St. Pierre takes on Johnny Hendricks, defends his belt in a split decision. He walks away from the sport, says he's got to go away for a little while. Doesn't say that he was going to retire. But some people, even his most loyal fans like myself, thought that it would be a retirement. They did not expect that he would come back. I had always hoped that he would come back. But to see it now, to see how serious he's taking this fight with Michael Bisping for the UFC middleweight title, I am so happy that this fight is on. I'm so happy that this fight is happening. I'm so happy that this fight is the main event at MSG. It deserved to be, in my opinion, two of the game's most tenured fighters, two of the winningest UFC fighters of all time, one at number 1, the other at number 2. Eric, my man, joining me as a co-host. What are your expectations for this fight? Is this a fight that kind of revs your engine? What are your thoughts on it?
Of course. Been waiting for this for a while, like you said. Last year there were talks of it, and we weren't sure it was going to happen. We thought that was off the table after Whitaker won the belt. And we thought it was going to be Whitaker and Bisping. But, as bad as it is, I feel bad for Whitaker. But in a way, I'm kind of glad because we got GSP and Bisping now that he's unable to compete. So this is huge. This is half the reason why this card is as big as it is. You got 3 title fights, and GSP. There are some that will argue that GSP didn't earn this title shot, being that it's in a different weight class. But GSP has done so much for the company. Put it on his
put
back
it on the map.
Often.
Really, yeah,
really, he has.
Yeah.
A lot of people still recognize GSP, but a lot of people also. He retired. Well. He went away from the sport, I should say.
His hiatus.
His hiatus, a 4-year hiatus.
Yeah.
Has truly changed the game, where so many more people are now watching the UFC. And you can credit that to John Jones or Conor McGregor.
Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. Now a lot of people are tuning in again. And GSP, I think a lot of people that are tuning in now have an idea of who George St. Pierre was, but I don't think they understand the legacy and the amount that he's truly done for the sport to the extent that a lot of longtime fans like yourself, Ryan, have. And it's huge where you feel like this guy definitely deserves something for coming back. Even if it's a 4-year hiatus. A lot of people remember him for all of his title defenses of the welterweight belt. He's coming in, and it's going to be a huge money fight. Both competitors, Bisping and GSP, are great fighters. Some of the best of all time, I think.
Yeah.
Bisping's been one of the hardest working since he won the Ultimate Fighter Season 3. And George St. Pierre, obviously, we know, has been one of the greatest Ultimate Fighter fighters of all time. So I don't know, it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be amazing. This whole card is going to be great. I can't wait.
I'm at a point where, and we're going to do, I think 15 minutes isn't enough, to be honest. I think I need to delve into some other stuff with this fight. But so many people that didn't really get to see the rise of GSP and the ascent that he had and the legacy that he had in the UFC welterweight division, it's not even really about that. For me, it's more about what he did for the UFC in a time that nobody else was doing the stuff that he was doing. Nobody was taking on number one contender after number one contender after number one, finishing them the exact same way. And I say finishing them in bold because people say, well, he fought, and I got the list here, both of their careers in front of me. he had the fight with Matt Hughes that he lost. He said that he took Matt Hughes too light, or he didn't take Matt Hughes seriously. He was in awe of Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes is a goddamn icon. So there's really no, I get that. I can understand that. He was 22, 23 years old at the time, fighting Matt Hughes, who was like pre-GSP. Like that, he was like, there was Matt Hughes, and then GSP brought it to another level and kind of ran away. In terms of the welterweight division, when Matt Hughes was done, he was the greatest welterweight of all time. And then GSP kind of one-upped him. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 title defenses that he had in a row went to decision. And people look at that and they're like, oh my God, he didn't finish the fights, he's boring, he wrestled guys. This is a dude that he messed people up. He dominated the game. And people are like, oh well, he didn't finish, he didn't look for the knockout, he didn't finish Dan Hardy, he didn't finish Josh Koscheck, he didn't finish Jake Shields, he didn't finish Condit, I'd like to see them try, because those guys are some of the toughest MFers that I've ever fought in MMA. Nick Diaz is tough.
Yeah, that was a great fight.
Carlos Condit, he's tough. Jake Shields is tough. Josh Koscheck is tough. And Dan Hardy doesn't really get enough credit, I don't think, for his UFC career. BJ Penn, he fought twice and beat. BJ Penn was forced to quit in a fight at UFC 94. This fight was in 2009, in which GSP fought BJ Penn in a champion versus champion fight.
Which, I mean, BJ Penn's arguably considered one of the best weights of all time.
It's so tough for me to hear people say, well, GSP's like, he didn't finish guys, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. It's like, if you don't understand it, there's really no telling what, I could go on and on, but what this guy did for the sport. Really, the Jake Shields fight, which I remember was on my birthday, actually. I think it was my 19th birthday. They had GSP versus Jake Shields. It was the UFC I'm looking at it here, UFC 129. That fight was at the Rogers Center. The Rogers Center has 60,000 seats in it. It sold out in 5 minutes. I mean, that's another level. He was, I would say, not in terms of the trash talk, obviously. He's got his limitations with English and stuff like that. But in terms of his superstardom, it was pre-Conor McGregor. Like, he was Conor McGregor before Conor McGregor. He was like the athlete in MMA, where Conor McGregor has been like the talker, the finisher, the brash fighter that
people
he is. Yeah, it's tough to see, like, there's two different eras, and I understand why people like the Conor McGregor era more than the GSP era, but my thing is, appreciate both. Appreciate both. In terms of the fact of, GSP defending the title after number one contender, that's something that Conor has not done. So it's tough. I label him as the best of all time. I think that he should be more appreciated, but this fight with Michael Bisping is deserved. You don't defend the belt that long, and you do take a 4-year hiatus. I think he meant for it to be a 2 to 3 year hiatus. Things didn't really go right in terms of the negotiation to bring him back. It ran a little too long, which could be a detriment in this fight. But moving on, I think that GSP should be far more appreciated. I think that this fight with Bisping is a hell of a fight. I think that this fight is going to be very, very interesting because these guys are the two vets in the sport. Eric, give me your take. We'll segue into Michael Bisping. What are your thoughts? As we got 5, we'll continue this part 2. Your thoughts on Michael Bisping?
Michael Bisping, the Count. He's a stud. I love Bisping. No, I really do like him. He's so interesting. When he took that fight with Luke Rockhold, I really didn't think much of it. I thought Luke Rockhold would just put him away. But Luke Rockhold took him too lightly, and Bisping connected with that left hook, knocked him out, and became the middleweight champion. And I really do think it's deserved. Bisping has took so many fights in short notices, and he's gone after guys. He arguably could have been one of the fighters of the year last year, had it not been so stacked as it was, with Conor and Amanda Nunes, Cody Garbrandt. It was just insane. I mean, he arguably beat Anderson Silva. Arguably he did. It was controversial.
I think he did.
Very controversial, though, unfortunately. Then he beats Rockhold, and then he defends against Dan Henderson. It's amazing to me that the guy has been doing it for so long, and he's very charismatic. He's
great.
He's almost
great
on
talker.
Conor McGregor's level, I think, personally. Just seeing them have a back and forth would be very interesting and fun. The fight would never happen, obviously.
Yeah, Bisping's been doing this, and Bisping, to really give Bisping his due, I personally, if you really want to think about it, as an Englishman, as a UK fighter, he brought that whole European scene onto the map of MMA. He's a pioneer. Without him, you wouldn't have the platform that Conor McGregor was able to stamp, to put his feet on. You really wouldn't. No. And he did a lot in terms of promotion for the past. He's done a lot in the last 10 years, really, promoting the UFC, promoting MMA, being an Ultimate Fighter winner, Season 3, coaches against Dan Henderson. It was Team USA versus Team UK. That was actually a really big, successful season of the Ultimate Fighter. And then he coached again against Mayhem Miller, which is just funny to say because that guy is just a complete mess.
He's going off the rail for sure.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And that is actually... Mayhem Miller is actually the one common opponent that Bisping and GSP have, which is just crazy. And it was, I think, actually I got it on here. Bisping fought Jason Mayhem Miller in December of 2011, and GSP fought Mayhem Miller. Let's see here. Jason Miller. Let's see here. I know he fought him. He did. Okay, I'm not losing my mind. He fought Jason Mayhem Miller in April 2005, UFC 52.
Wow.
That was forever ago. He won the fight via decision. His second win in a row after his title loss to Matt Hughes, beat Dave Strasser and Jason Miller, moved him to 9-1. And GSP is 25-2 entering this fight. That was a long time ago. So that, in a nutshell, kind of tells you the careers that these guys have had. Long-time UFC fighters, long-time MMA fighters. GSP is tied for most wins in championship fights. I believe it's 12. Bisping, the only thing he needed to bookend his career was the title. He really doesn't. He doesn't have to be fighting. He could have just retired after he beat Luke Rockhold, in my opinion. But that's not the type of guy he is.
No.
This fight, I really think that this fight is like the UFC's prayer to 2017. What is your take on to bookend who you think will win this fight? Who do you think will win it?
I have written down that I believe that George St. Pierre will be victorious, third round submission.
Third round submission. All right.
That's what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to take Bisping down. Bisping is going to be taken down. George St. Pierre is going to mount him on top, put him in any kind of submission hold. Kimura, rear naked choke. I'm not sure which, but I think it's going to end in submission by GSP. And he's going to become the new middleweight champion.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say fourth round TKO.
Ooh.
George St. Pierre.
Ooh.
Bisping will be trying to work back to his feet time and time again, round after round. GSP will be able to take him down, impose his will, but at some point in the fourth round, GSP is going to catch Bisping on his way down, as he takes... GSP is going to take him down, and then Bisping is going to get pounded. It'll be enough. Enough will be enough. Bisping, the only problem I have with Bisping is that he takes way too many punches. He takes a lot of punishment. And in the stand-up game, GSP is no slouch. People say, he's a wrestler. He jabbed Josh Koscheck's eye off. He beat the piss out of Johnny Hendricks in the fifth round of that fight. And most people say he lost it. I thought that fifth round won him the fight. Nick Diaz, he got through. Carlos Condit, I think, is his biggest win, one of his biggest wins.
For sure.
So I am excited for this card. I really hope you enjoyed the UFC 217 pre-fight show as I was joined by my good buddy Eric Ellis. We're definitely going to be doing more of these as each card goes on, but this is the biggest card of the year, guys and gals. This is the biggest card of the year. There's no doubt about it. Bisping, GSP, Garbrandt, Dillashaw, Rose taking on Joanna. I can't wait. Tune in tonight, 10 in the East, 7 in the West. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was a Thomas Take Sports podcast. Take care, everybody.